All right. So we are here with Dan. So we're doing a little impromptu interview because Dan's had a little aha moment and we just wanted to kind of share his journey. And it's something that I see come up a lot. I also got caught in this cycle as well. Um, but a common cycle is going on the internet and spending hours and hours and hours researching eczema. And the internet's a beautiful place because we can get whatever answers we want to find. But we can get caught in that black hole. I always call it the black hole of the internet. And we can go down all these rabbit holes. And as great as it is with all the information, and Dan's a nerd, just like me, and it loves following experts. And while that's great because a lot of experts share a lot of their information and their findings, you can start going down different rabbit holes and following them. And so Dan doesn't have a problem with sticking to something. He's actually probably too disciplined. But this is common because I worked with lots of different athletes like Dan, and it's okay, I'm going to do this diet. This is the reason why I need to do it. I just need to do it 100%. But then what happens is, especially with the restrictive diets, is that, okay, all of a sudden I'm living in this bubble. And it's probably like quite similar, Dan, to when you're in training. So you're used to that, right? And
Yeah.
so we start noticing all these different patterns
Yeah.
that keep popping up. So for you, that's comfortable, right? To have a lot of boundaries and just do this, just do this. But something that had come up and Dan felt himself yo-yoing to that pattern again is, okay, well, Dan, what's happening in your body? And what are your goals? So we'll have a little chat today about Dan's journey. And he did get good results with the carnivore diet, but his end goal was to be able to hang out with his buddies and just go out for dinner with his family and enjoy food instead of always being restricted. So we're going to have a little chat today about how Dan was able to rewire his brain skin connection and then also start getting in tune with his body, understanding what his body needs rather than just going off all these other diets. So welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I always like to get started with like your journey. So maybe what your eczema was like when you were younger and maybe some of the trial and error that you had.
Yeah. I feel like when people talk about their stories, it's super similar to mine. And it seems like it's kind of like a common trend is like you had it when you were a kid. So I had it a little bit when I was like 16. I don't even think I really had it when I was like a baby. But a little bit when I was like 16. And then the way it goes is, you know, you get steroid creams, you get cortisol creams or whatever. And for me, it went away. Like I would get a little bit here and there on the middle of my arms, and then it would go away with steroid creams. No big deal. Didn't think about it until maybe like second year of university. So about like 4 years ago. And I'd have like a little spot on my neck or a little spot on my forehead or something. Steroid creams fixed it. No big deal.
Mhm.
And then it sort of was at bay for 3 or 4 years until like my fourth year university when, you know, you were doing the thing. We're kind of living like rock stars. We're partying, we're drinking, eating out, kind of just not really caring about your health, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're there to enjoy yourself. And I was playing sports and I didn't really care about school. So the stress compounded and all that sort of stuff. And then like my fourth year university, I just kind of started to explode. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
that's what everyone says, right? You just kind of get like a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And then I started going down, you know, like the holistic health kind of path, right? Like seeing other people's stories on YouTube or on Facebook or reading this article or that article. And food had something to do with it. And from there, it was just like, okay, if food has something to do with it, then surely I got to start cutting stuff out of my diet. And surely I got to figure out what's triggering what's going on. So that led me down the path of like cutting things out, eating different things, trying different things, yo-yoing from diet to diet. I tried juice fasting, I tried water fasting, I tried vegan, raw vegan, everything. I literally tried everything under the sun to try and figure out what would happen or what would work. And you know, some stuff I had slight results, right? Like the carnivore diet, I heard a lot of anecdotes of these autoimmune conditions, right? These gut issues being triggered by different plants. So I was like, oh, geez, just cut them all out. No big deal, right? It'll fix all my issues. And I had like a little bit of relief. But when I met Alicia, when we started talking, she was like, that's just not really the answer. Like cutting out all these things and being in this bubble, as you say, like it's just not what you want. It's not living. You're just existing basically. You're just going day by day, just kind of going through the motions, and you're not enjoying life. And that's where I was at. I was, stuck in these cycles and stuck restricting and not hanging out with friends and secluding
Yeah.
myself and all this different stuff. And it led to a lot of just like mental health issues and, like just being scared of being with people and
Yeah.
uncomfortable in your own body. Like we kind of all know what that feels like, right? When you're just kind of not comfortable, you can't like calm yourself down almost. And that's kind of where like I was at that point where I was like, okay, like I need to fix something. Like none of this is working at this point. I'm eating two foods. I'm eating beef and salt and eggs. Like this is not life. This is not living. This is awful. And it was
Yeah.
actually like I think you and I had spoke a little bit and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll try it. A couple months later, you just were like, I'm going through my messages. I just wanted to reach out again. I was like, all right, like this is the second time I've heard from Alicia. Like I need to give this a try. And then I jumped right in, right? And then we started working together and it's been amazing ever since. Like it's really changed my whole outlook on nutrition and your body and how it ties into your mental health and how your gut affects your mental health and all that stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at now, where I'm in a better spot. We're not done yet, but in a lot better spot than I was.
Yeah, it's hard for because somebody who's never had eczema, they don't realize, they just think it's itchy rashes, right? They don't realize like the mental aspect to it. And
Yeah.
it is what like there's that direct brain skin connection in terms of stress and the emotional stuff. But then also from having eczema, that creates more stress and then it's compounding and it's just this continuous cycle, exactly like you said. Okay, I can't eat all these foods, so and then I'm like covered in rashes. I don't want to go out with friends. Like I don't like it's not enjoyable because I can't eat anything and I'm self-conscious. And then you
Yeah.
sit at home and you're a very social person.
Yeah.
You're very outgoing. You need to be around humans. So that's what I was like,
100%.
all right, when are you gonna go see your friends?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, we even
yeah.
spoke like a little bit through the
Yeah.
program. You were like, you need to go see your friends. Like, you need to just like go out and see them. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? I was like, you're so right. And I went, and it was like, no big deal, no issue. Right? Wasn't even thinking about
Yeah.
anything. It actually ended up helping. Like, it helped my mental health like so much. So totally,
Human connection is really important.
absolutely.
Um, and another thing that you said, so it's interesting that you said, so going down the different rabbit holes. And one of the conversations we had was about biases. So you can, if you're a researcher and you're like the top researcher in a field, you have a bias and a lens that you see the world through. And that's great because we need those people that are highly specified to a certain area, but then you're only looking at one piece. And that's where it gets really hard when you go to specialists and especially like when you're trying to research, like that's me. So it's interesting how you say plants are the ones that are damaging your gut because you're going to have the different group and some people who are it's down the vegan or like, well, I thought meat was the one that creates inflammation and is damaging you.
It's so true, right?
So
Yeah.
it's literally the lens that you see it through, right?
Yeah. And then that's when you
Yeah.
get into the yo-yoing, right? Like you read one
Yeah,
thing and someone
exactly.
someone had the success. Like someone I follow this doctor that was on this super strict paleo diet. Like he wasn't having grains, like butter, eggs, any of these inflammatory things, right? And then he cut out all vegetables and went strict carnivore like I did. I tried it and he saw amazing results. And now he's like, all plants are the devil. They all have these compounds that are gonna kill you and all this different stuff, right? And it's like, geez, man. And then you hear another story of someone went vegan and cut out all meat and dairy products or whatever, and you just flip flop
Yeah,
and just are all over the place. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. So if there's anybody watching live now or later, drop a yes below if you've been caught in that cycle. We all have. But that's essentially, and that was the big thing that I wanted to kind of chat about is that's essentially what keeps people stuck. So if you aren't understanding what's going on in your body and giving yourself time to heal. So the whole aim of the game is okay, let's think back down with your timeline. Okay, before uni, right? Uni's a big hasn't been well since picture. Stress, partying, not eating right, all that kind of stuff. But if you could think of your body before that point, you were able to eat all these foods and you were fine. So it's not that, okay, your body isn't set up to not eat these foods. There is something that happened and there's dysfunction. So we need to get back to that place before that dysfunction happened. So that's a good thing to anchor in on, because the body takes time to heal, right? When you use food as medicine and you go like down the road of gut healing, the brain skin connection, all that takes time. And a really important thing is, okay, check in, what's happening in my body? Because you had posted in the group, is it okay to be eating this diet? And then I was just like, well, what does your body tolerate?
Yeah.
Because the guides are good and they're all guides, but no guide is going to be specific to one person and to where their body's at in that moment in time. So that was
Exactly.
a big one too.
That
Yeah.
was one of the major aha moments that I had, when it was just like, I think you and I talked, like maybe it was even a couple weeks ago, and I was like,
Yeah.
thinking, I was like, yeah, that might work for them, or maybe they can't eat that, or like maybe they recommend don't eat that, but like maybe I can actually eat that. Like maybe I can actually tolerate that in a small amount, or maybe I can actually tolerate all these different things. And it just really has to be personalized. And that's,
Yeah.
that's where I was getting stuck so much, was just these blanket terms and these blanket protocols and blanket diets, where it was just like demonizing this one food group or that food group or this plant or that plant or whatever it was. And you just got to think like, no, but maybe I can do super well with that. So maybe I should include it. And it just all has to be just a personal journey, rather than what someone says everyone should do, which is just, it's really not the case for anything really. Like it has to be individual.
Yeah. And that's on like on my radar when I'm hearing other people speak. If somebody says absolutely no to something and that's black and white, no scientist or somebody that's highly educated is going to say like yes or no to anything. Like everything in science is right. It's nothing's black and white. So when
Right.
somebody's like, this is the devil, that's when I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Shut it down.
That's when I tune out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, the idea with all this, because it is really, really overwhelming, because a lot of people are just desperate, right? They just want to be able to live life. They're like, I will do anything. And it is hard when people do start the program too. It's like, tell me exactly what I need to do. And while there are just foundational stuff that you can do, it is just about where are you at? What's happening with your body? What's happening with your biochemistry? And, with the carnivore diet, you did get good results. And another thing is, well, what's your end goal? If you're okay with just eating meat, and like organ meats and eating meat all the time, like, and if you're happy with that, cool, I'll support you. But if your goal is to be able to expand the diet, then that's what we want to work on. And it is understanding your body, right? Anytime you change a diet, it's a therapeutic diet. You need to be thinking, what am I taking out? So then when you reintroduce it, what do I need to slowly do? And where has there been an imbalance in my body? Because with carnivore and keto, a lot of times it does play up with the balance of your microbiome. So it is just that kind of fine tuning and slowly changing.
Yeah. And
um,
that's the thing too, is like, it is a slow process. If you're coming from a place of like hyper restriction, like you can get into the science and explain it to people all day long. Like your microbiome is essentially in a state of like despair. Like it's completely devoid of so many beneficial things. So it really is like, it's a trial and error process. It's a slow moving process. Maybe you can't handle a whole sweet potato when you first start, right? Like maybe you have to have a tablespoon, like whatever. It's kind of a dangerous place when you're so restrictive and just so like, on your mental health too, right? Like going out and not being able to eat and just literally sitting there and be like, oh yeah, I can only eat a steak, or I can only have a piece of salmon, is like, people think it's ridiculous, and it's just like embarrassing almost. And it's just not a good place. Like you want to be able ideally to have every single food like that we have, in our world today. So that's not what I wanted. And I'm glad that I started this program, because that really was my end goal, was just to be able to eat whatever I wanted, kind of whenever I wanted, to a certain extent. So
yeah. And that's something that we were chatting about a little last week, is the food anxiety. So it's going out with your friends, not being able to eat. And then, am I overthinking what I'm putting in my mouth? And is that creating the flare up, the brain skin connection, or is it the food?
Exactly.
Yeah. But one thing you had said there too is, when you're switching your diet, to slowly change. And I think that's a good aha moment for other people too, is if you've gone to an extreme diet like carnivore, what if it is keto, like reintroducing those fibers has to be slow, because
Yeah.
otherwise you don't have the microbiome to break it down in the bacteria. So that was a big one too.
Yeah. And that's what I
I
saw
think
from the
working.
start, right? Like you and I talked, like this might be TMI for people, but like took me like 3 months for me to have like a normal bowel movement, right?
Yeah.
Because I was so used to just digesting protein and fat.
Mhm.
And I literally
Yeah.
had zero fiber for what, 3 or 4 months. And so it
Mhm.
was like frustrating. I was like, at one point I even said to you, I was like, at what point do we just call it quits with fiber and just say like, look, I can't digest any fiber. We'll just keep it out forever and we'll just go on with my life with only protein and fat. And then you were like, no, like it's not the food, it's you. Like you just can't handle it right now. So we'll just slowly work up to it. So
Yep. Yep. And looking deep into the microbiome. That's exactly
yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay. So what has been helpful for you? When we were chatting, you were talking about some of your daily rituals that have been
Yeah.
helpful in addition to diet.
So in addition to diet, like I think one of the biggest turning points for me was the mental side of it. And it really is so powerful. Like people think like, oh
Mm.
no, like it probably doesn't play a role.
Yeah.
Like it's just what I'm eating. Like, they say, oh, I don't need to meditate. I don't need to do all these things. But for me, really, like not looking in the mirror first thing in the morning to see if I had a new flare up, like
Oh,
not rolling up
okay.
my sleeves every 5 minutes to see if like my skin was more red after a meal. Like all of these little
Yeah.
things are just subconscious things that your body or that your mind is just like, it's just playing tricks on you almost. It's just like, oh, check if you're like flared up, and then it's a carrot, you're allergic to carrots, you're sensitive to carrots or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
that really was monumental in my healing, was when I just stopped almost caring about what the surface of my skin looked like and started to just like settle down and bring balance to that back to my body, because I was so out of balance. Like I was so like
Mhm.
just yeah, just out of balance, and your body knows that you're out of balance and your mind's out of balance. And so just trying to bring balance back to your thoughts and to your
Mhm.
daily practices. Like I started setting times when I would eat and went to bed at the same time. I woke up at the same time, just kind of put my body in rhythm. I was working out at the same time, like doing all these things to just kind of bring balance back. And that was really, really helpful for me. And on top of that, yeah, just the mental aspect of like thinking yourself into a flare up, like not thinking about the food, almost just completely just being like, just trusting the process in a way, just stepping back and being like, okay, like if I get a flare up, it's not because I'm sensitive to this, or it's not because of this, that, and the other thing. It's just because like my body's changing and my body's healing. And so like the mental aspect of it was like just a game changer when I started to tune into the way my body felt and regulate my thoughts and my nervous system and all that stuff. Like it really, really helped me.
Because it's, and this is something that we talk about all the time with eczema, it is lack of boundaries with ourselves, and with others. And, athlete and studying, all that, going to university, it's go, 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 push, push, push. And it's also if you're very social.
Yeah.
So a lot of times our brain's just always on overdrive and we're not prioritizing our health, or we just live this busy life. We've never thought, oh, I need to rest. And that's when you're out of the big flare ups. That's the beautiful thing about eczema, is that you have a direct cue from your body saying, slow down. I
Exactly.
need a bit of a break. Like you've been on overdrive.
Yeah.
But yeah, the brain skin connection is really, really powerful. And it does, like what you were saying, you just created regularity with your nervous system, going to bed
Yeah.
at the same time, waking up, doing movement, all of that. And it will be, because now you're back in training again too. So it will be, yeah,
Yeah.
about like being consistent with that again, because now it's
Yeah.
that next level. But yeah,
And
yeah,
really like stress management was huge too. Like you're in this mode where whether it's work, your family, sports, school, whatever, like your body's in constant stress with that stuff too, on top of
yeah,
everything else.
yeah.
So being able to manage that, and like my parents have been trying to get me to meditate. My stepdad's a yoga therapy teacher. They've been telling me to
Oh,
meditate for
beautiful. I
years.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. They've been
uh,
telling me to meditate for years, and I'm like, no, it doesn't work. Like it's all just heebie-jeebie BS, like whatever. But it really is
yeah.
powerful when you start to address like your nervous system and your you know, your thoughts and your emotions, and even just your breath starting slow, like all of that stuff is just like, just brings balance back. And it's just so, it's so healing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I think it was like when I was in high school, I think he went for his training, and they've been trying to get me to do it like all these years. And I was like, no. Like he teaches where we live just up the street. And yeah.
Beautiful. So
Yeah.
have you been doing some of his sessions or have you been
Yes.
meditating?
Yes,
Great.
yes. And he's a big, strong guy, so he can, you know, hold
Yeah.
those poses for a long time. And I'm there, I'm like super lanky and like an athlete. I'm just not really that flexible, and it's tough. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. But it's good to do things outside your comfort zone.
Yeah,
Yeah, create a little bit of resilience. It's good for the brain as well.
yeah,
Oh,
totally.
beautiful. Well done, Dan.
Yeah.
Doing all the things.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right. So that was lovely chatting. Do you have any words of wisdom, maybe either for people in the program, because there are people that might be thinking, okay, like you did,
Yeah,
oh, maybe it's time to yo-yo, or I've been like putting a lot of effort in, I'm like, I should be getting a lot of results, or do you
yeah,
have any, yeah, wise words for people in the program or people who haven't started their healing journey yet or
absolutely.
trying to? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was something really that I looked for. That's what I was looking for. Essentially, I was looking for people that were in a place where, like you, where you're healed and you're happy and you're healthy and all of that stuff. And it was hard to come by. So for anyone like listening or thinking about joining the program, or like you're having rough skin issues or whatever, like no matter how deep of a hole you're in, like 100% it gets better. It 100% gets better, and you're not going to be living like this forever. You may
Mhm.
not think it because you're so deep in like the stress of it, and you're red and you're itchy and you're hot, but there's always something you can do, right? Like whether it's testing or doing anything, there's always something more you can do to help your body, right? And and yeah, like it always gets better. And just do the little things, like just start slow, because it really is it's a long process. Like people don't want to hear it, they want a 30-day fix, right? Like
Yeah.
it,
That's
like
not,
I've
that's not.
no, I've been at this almost 3.5, I think in April it'll be 4 years almost. And
Yeah.
you know, obviously I yo-yoed and did damage along the way, and you know, kind of broke my habits and all that stuff. It's been a long road,
Mm.
but when you start being consistent with things, with your diet, with your practices, with your stress management and all that different stuff, like it really, it changes everything, right? It doesn't just change your skin health, it changes your mental health, it changes your relationships,
Mhm.
it changes your outlook on life. Like it really is, like it's a holistic sort of process. And honestly, like people say it when they're on the other side. I'm not quite there. We're almost there, but it really, like eczema and all those other skin issues, like it really is almost a blessing. It's kind of crazy to say, but like like
Yeah.
I would be drinking, I would still be with my buddies all the time, like smoking weed or doing whatever, doing like kid stuff, right? Like I would be hurting my health even more if this didn't happen to me. So I'm super blessed that, you know, that I got it. And yeah, it's a slow going process, but it really does always get better. And reaching out to someone like you, Alicia, and working with someone is one of the most profound things you could do, because this is something that I was stuck into, is like just trying to do it myself.
Mhm.
And that's when you go down the rabbit holes, yo-yo to a diet or this diet or that protocol for 2 weeks, be like, oh, 2 weeks, I didn't see anything. And then we'll switch. Right. But having someone that will, you know, keep you in line and be there for you and all that different stuff is like, it's one of the biggest, like one of the greatest blessings too. So thank you very much
Yeah.
for your work, because it really does change people's lives when they go from a state of dysfunction and a state of like super red and inflamed and think that there's no end and that they'll be like this forever, and to have someone that's like, no, like it'll get better, and walk them through the process. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for the beautiful words.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that if anybody is listening and they've been yo-yoing through the different diets, learn from Dan's trial and error. I did
Yeah.
it too. That like you do need to stick to a process, and
Yeah.
a lot of us with eczema, it is hard to ask for help.
Yeah.
I was definitely in that boat too, and especially when you have that strong mind and you're like, hang on, I should be able to do this myself. it's
Right.
hard when you don't have the education and you are in that space, and it's yeah, your brain just doesn't work because
Yeah.
you're dealing with so much physically and emotionally. So
Yeah.
yeah, and the big thing is just listen to your body, right? Like you started
Yes.
adding in more foods, you're like, I feel better. My
Yes.
sleep's better, you know?
Yeah. You
Yeah,
have to
better
listen to your
energy.
body. Yeah, that's huge. You have to listen to your body because, and I almost think that sometimes it's like the voice in the back of your head is actually your gut telling you sort of what's going on, like what's going on, what you need to do. Like if you ever are not listening to that voice in the back of your head, you should probably start because it's probably trying to tell you
Yeah.
something good.
Yeah, yeah.
And like it probably
Yeah.
is. And you really just got to listen to your body. It has to be personal to you. Like this whole journey is about you. It's not about anyone else. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, you have as many neurons in your entire nervous system attached to your gut as you do your
Really.
spinal cord. So yeah, listen
Well,
to
there
that
you
gut
go.
feeling. You're
Yeah.
spot on.
Yeah. It's there. It's
Yeah.
real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
um, all right, Jen. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your aha moments. It's always helpful for other people to hear other people's journey and their story. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. And thank you for prioritizing yourself and maybe sitting with the discomfort of sticking to one thing.
Yes.
But I'm glad that, yeah, I'm glad that you have.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
trust in Alicia, everyone. Just trust in her. She'll help you. She will help you. Yeah. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'll chat to you soon, Jen.
See ya.
Bye.